right? Lot of very, very heavy class today, because this is the essence, guys. This is the Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. This is the most confidential knowledge of the Vedas. The secret essence of the Vedas is this particular chapter, because this chapter began by explaining the Bhagavad Aishwarya Jnana, the knowledge of Lord's mystical powers, right? Only one who's non-envious of Krishna will be able to understand this, right? And what is that? He began by explaining in text number 4 and 5 certain contradictory statements, that how he is present and not present. He is inside every being and he is not there also, right? That we understood through this nice analysis based on the principle of time dilation and the different lokas. We understood that how rationally and logically also one can understand, based on philosophy, one can understand that how these apparent contradictions can also be resolved. That is why he is called as the absolute truth, because all contradictions are resolved in the nature of the absolute truth. That is the very nature, that is the very meaning of absolute truth, because the absolute truth is not bound by anything. If it is bound by something, that limitation becomes the higher truth, right? He's absolute in a sense that he's unbound, he's not limited by anything, therefore he's beyond all these relative truths. And based on that understanding, we derive this achintya understanding, this inconceivable understanding, that how Krishna is and he isn't, right? So he is pervading, he is not pervading. He is inside, he is not outside. He is the demigods, he is not the demigods. He is inside us, he is not outside us, right? So at multiple levels, this statement can be applied. And he is the creator, maintainer, and destroyer, but he isn't, because he is also a neutrally detached person. So that knowledge of Lord's mystical powers was first described. And then in the next section, right, we discussed about the ways to approach. Krishna talks about, now that you have understood my greatness, my Aishwarya, how do you approach me, right? Because one is the Duratmas, they derive the Lords from and reduce him to be an impersonal energy. That is not the right way to understand, but the right way, the Mahatmas, who have these following characteristics, right? And then there are the Gyanis who are in midway, who are trying to understand in a very intellectual worship as a conceptual oneness, a conceptual diversity, and a conceptual macrocosmic understanding, by which they try to approach the same absolute truth, right? But those who are trying to approach in a very personalized worship that they want to do, that personalized worship, the misconception is, one may again falsely think of demigods to be all and all, but that is an avidhi purvakam, that is a wrong technique. But rather, why is it wrong technique? Because all paths don't lead to the same goal, right? Because if you approach a demigod with devotion, you go to the planet of the demigods, but the problem is their planets are temporary. So again, you come down. Once your pious credits, your punya gets exhausted, your piety, the good karma gets exhausted, then again you have to come down to earth, right? Or if you're worshipping the pitras, same pitras means these departed ancestors. In certain world traditions, you might have heard about this. They worship their ancestors, their past ancestors, especially in certain Chinese traditions, and in certain South American traditions also, I believe. They respect their ancestors and worship their ancestors as their guides, and whatever, as their higher forces in life, right? So that is also, you also go there, but you also have to come back. But when you go to the planet of Krishna, yad gatva nivartante tad dhama paramam, you don't have to come back. We spoke about that in the last chapter, in the 8th chapter, right? So therefore, the understanding is, yes, there are many gods, there are many devas or devatas, but there is only one God. The absolute truth cannot, the concept of absolute truth cannot be diluted, right? This is the main crux of this guhya, the secret of the Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge. The most confidential part, we are going to talk about this in tomorrow's chapter. So that aspect. So tomorrow we will cover the remainder of 9th chapter and the whole of 10th chapter. A very important section, because I wanted to take these two together, because this is the middle of the middle of the middle, right? And in fact, even in that, one verse stands out. One specific verse which comes dead in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, it stands out. It is the the ultimate sutra of the entire Bhagavad Gita. That we're going to talk about that in tomorrow's class.